Hi, I'm Julia from GE Teaching Resources, and today I'm talking to Chrissy Hutzel from Hutzel House of Music on TPT, and she is another long-term member of the music crew. Hi, Chrissy, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, good, thank you. As we were saying before we started recording, it is freezing here. I'm in Australia, and it was our first frost this morning, and I am so cold it's not funny. But apparently that's not the case for you. So
No, it's sweltering here in the US today.
yeah, the joys of being on either side of the world. But anyway, it's all good. So, Chrissy, can you tell me about a little bit about yourself and how you got into music teaching?
Well, ever since I remember being in second grade and just knowing I wanted to be a teacher. It's just always been something that I thought I would do when I grew up. And then when I got involved with band starting in fifth grade, when I was about 10 years old, I just loved it. And I remember having a moment in like 10th grade band sitting in class, like, wait, I could be a music teacher. I could do both. And I was very excited by that like thought. My intention was that I was going to be a band director because that was what had really hooked me in. I did not have a great experience in elementary music myself, and actually spent several years not working in music education because I refused to apply for jobs for elementary because I had had such just a not good experience myself. So when I ended up moving into the elementary space, I did not think it was going to be for long, but I fell in love with it. And I'm so glad that I did because it's so much fun to work with the little ones and sing and dance and play all day.
Look, I take my hat off to you because I teach grades 7 to 12, and I went very early in my career. We, as casual teachers, that was what we call it, as opposed to substitute teachers. I did a lot in the primary setting, so kindy to year six, and I couldn't cope with kindies. They wanted to they wanted to touch your legs and they wanted to hold your hand. And it's like, I don't know where your hands have been. Much better suited to the high school space. I love little people, don't get me wrong. But
I
I take
think
my hat
my
off to
sweet
people.
spot is more like third grade through sixth grade. Those are my favorite kids to teach. The first kindergarten through second are fun, but they are so high energy. And
Yeah.
I struggle to keep my energy up all day to keep up with them and be able to change what I'm doing often enough to match their attention spans.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
third and up is really like my sweet spot.
Yeah. And look, I know what you're saying. I teach a lot of grade seven, which is at our school. And some days, when I've got three of those classes in a row, I come into the staff room and I go, oh, because you got to keep your energy up there, because if you don't, the lesson falls apart really quickly. And it's like
Yes.
exhausting. So I can't imagine how it would be to be teaching little people that you got to do that. And my next question was going to be what inspired you, but you've sort of talked about that. So what is your main instrument then, and how on earth did you choose it, or did it choose you?
Well, officially, my first and main instrument is the clarinet. And they had a day where the band directors came to our school and we tried out the instruments during the school day in fourth grade so that we could choose what we wanted to do and sign up for fifth grade. And they only allowed me to try flute and clarinet, and I couldn't get a sound on the flute. So they told me I'd be a clarinet player, and that was that. And I was not very good at it the first year. And when I was in sixth grade, my second year, um, I was 23rd out of 24 clarinets and I wanted to quit. I was not having fun, but my mom put me in private lessons and said, give it a try. And if you still don't like it, you don't have to continue. And I actually was learning then from a clarinet player instead of my trumpet playing band directors.
Yep.
And I suddenly, like, everything clicked and I was able to play all the notes because I knew what I was supposed to be doing, but it just wasn't working.
Yep.
And he fixed me in like 2 or 3 lessons just to be able to do all the things that I couldn't do. And I moved up in the section and was happy with that. When I got into high school, though, I was in the marching band, and the band director were ninth grade through 12th grade for high school band. And the year that I was in eighth grade, the high school band director retired. And he had an all brass marching band. He didn't care if you didn't play your instrument, you just had to hold a brass instrument if it wasn't your principal instrument. He just didn't want woodwinds in the marching band. So he gave me a mellophone, and that's like a marching French
Mm.
horn.
Hmm.
And I wanted that because it was treble clef, and I thought at least I could read the music. And then the new band director came in and asked each of us to come in and play for him so he could put together his sections and everything. And when he told me to play the season opener, I laughed at him, which was probably not the best thing for a rising freshman to do to a new band director. But he put me back on clarinet, and there were woodwinds in the marching band that year. But the other thing that the previous director had done was he allowed the entire sousaphone or tuba section to be seniors. So the entire line graduated. And so we desperately needed tuba players the following year. And I did not enjoy playing clarinet in the marching band. It felt like I wasn't heard and there wasn't a lot of purpose to have me out there. So I switched over to sousaphone, and I absolutely love the tuba. I wish I had played it since 5th grade. It's my favorite thing to play, and I still play it today. And I
Wow.
still play it today too. It's sax and flute and other things, but tuba is my favorite.
Yeah. I can't imagine. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Wow. And it's funny. After talking to Elizabeth last week, yeah, our journeys as musicians evolve so much depending on whether you have a good teacher in front of you, and it can make or break it. And I know that's something I always keep in the back of my mind when I'm teaching, that I want to be a good music teacher in front of my kids so that they are inspired. And look, I tell my kids, look, I know you're not all going to be musicians because it's compulsory for our kids in year seven and eight to do music. And that's okay. It's like, you don't have to do music, but I want you to have a good go. And that's all that matters. And yeah, I don't want them to turn them off. That's not fun at all. It's not
Yeah,
fun.
I
We've got,
agree. And like, that's just to add on to that, when I had such a horrible experience in elementary general music, I so much so that I almost didn't have my career because
Mm,
of it. When I did go into this, I made it a point to make sure that every kid in my class feels valued. Like when I put on my musical, there's not auditions, it's 2nd grade. They're 7 years old. If you want a speaking part, you get a speaking part. I will write more parts. I will rewrite the entire script. I will make it work so that everyone who wants to do something gets to do something. It's an experience that's not something that should be so high pressure
yeah,
in such a young age
yeah,
at a
yeah.
public school.
That's right. I'm in a public school here as well, and the same deal. I want kids to have a go. I mean, most of my kids have never, I said, in here, our kids don't necessarily get a good experience in music in kinder to year six, the primary school setting at all. So and when they come to us in high school, they go, yeah, they're usually turned off by that, and I deliberately don't do choir, even though I'm a singer, because that's usually the only thing they get in primary school is they have to sing, and I don't want to turn them off. So because usually choir is not a good experience for them. So yeah, you got to you got to know your audience, so to speak. That's my
Yeah, without
audience.
a strong foundation, you
Yep.
can't just expect kids to break out of never having done something. And then when
Yeah.
they're, adolescent humans with all of their emotions and things that are going on already in their lives, the last thing they need to do is put themselves in a situation where they feel uncomfortable or judged by their
Yeah.
peers.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that's nice about working in a kindergarten through 6th grade building is I am the student's music teacher for 7 years.
Yes.
So they grow up with me in 6th grade. They're used to me and they're
Yep.
comfortable singing in my classroom. And if when I was a new teacher and coming in asking the 6th graders to sing for me, they were not comfortable because they didn't have that relationship. So I think
Yes.
building relationships is absolutely key to getting kids comfortable enough to put themselves out there.
Exactly, exactly. And it sounds, very much like what I have to do. You know, as a music teacher, I suppose in most schools, we are generally maybe the only person teaching music, mainly the only music teacher. So the kids get to know us, and yeah, they know the expectations. And also, what I found, because my current school, I've been there for 10 years. My last one, I was there for 11, and yeah, it's um the siblings of the older students, the younger ones coming through, they go, oh no, that teacher's okay. I had them, I have them, they're okay, or, you don't muck up on them because they're my favorite teacher, that sort of thing. You're not allowed to muck up on them. So yeah, yeah, I know what you're saying. So what is your favorite part about teaching music then?
I love that I'm a bright spot in Students' Day. That when they are in kindergarten through 2nd grade, they are in the same classroom with the same teacher all day, except for during their lunch and recess, and then during what we call our specials time or
Yep.
unified arts time, where each day on the schedule they rotate between art, music, and PE.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to be like a moment that they're excited to come to my room. Um, I think it's fun to like see kids surprise themselves with what they can do, and when we sound really good and they're like, "Whoa, we did that!" Like
Yeah.
that's really fun.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah, and again, like our kids, at the time of recording, this is yeah, end of June, so I had to check my dates. It's been a long week. That our kids at the moment, we're currently in subject selections for 2025 because our school year runs, a calendar year. And so I'm talking to year 10s. I've got beautiful year 10 students, and I keep saying to them who are, really, really bright kids who are going to follow the sciences and do the maths. And as you're saying, a bright spot in your day. And these kids, like, they need to be continuing their music education. As I said, guys, you got to understand all those subjects are going to be really, really heavy, and you're going to have your brain's going to hurt some days. It's going to be a bit of cognitive overload, which is the favorite expression at the moment. Coming to music is going to be a relief for you in the day. So please make sure you do that. Our subject, you need to be doing it because it will be a really lovely time in your day. And as you're saying, I'm sure you have kids that come up to you and go, "Oh, we've got music soon. I'm going to see you in a minute."
Oh yeah, I have bus duty when the kids get off the bus in the morning and they get off the bus. I'm going to have you today, or
Yeah.
I'll have you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's fun that they keep such good track. They know where they're going. They know which specials they're having. And
Yeah.
our team works really well together. So they're just as excited to go to art and to go to PE. We work well and like support each other around like the art show time. We might have to let kids miss one of our classes to go
Yeah.
finish their project, or for the musical, we all combine so that we have the whole grade level together
Yeah.
and they don't go to art and phys ed as much,
Yeah.
just so they get that time so they can put their performance together. So I think having a good team of teachers that are supportive of each other and what we're doing is really important too.
Yeah, it is. And as I said, just makes it a great experience for the kids. So I'm in the thick of doing a musical at the moment. I've only got 4 weeks before showtime. But anyway, won't go there. If you saw my lounge room, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's a musical happening. The costumes everywhere. They're everywhere. Luckily, I don't have little people at home anymore, and my husband is very, very forgiving because it's a mess out there. Anyway, so what are some of the challenges your students face when learning an instrument, and how do you help them overcome this?
I think the a big problem that we run into is reading music
Mm-hmm.
fluently, because it's hard for them to decode what the note is, like looking at the staff, reading a note, then thinking of the fingering. We do a
Yeah.
lot of recorder in my building. We play recorder starting in third grade and go all the way through sixth.
Mm-hmm.
They each have their own recorder so they can take it home. So it's really an instrument that if they work at it, which they should, I mean, we see them, every week for 3-4 years with it,
Yeah.
that they should be able to have some mastery of it. Um, I think controlling breath support is an issue, but it's thinking of so many different things at the same time, like read the note, find the fingers, use your slow air, play correctly, play it for the right amount of time,
Yeah.
and then be moving on to the next note before you've even finished processing everything on the first note.
Yeah.
So I like to do a lot of like echoes and things like that, and games with playing the instruments to try to build the facility with the instrument,
Yeah.
so that they can practice just playing the notes without trying to focus on all of the steps of reading music to play a full song all at the same time. I
Yeah.
think breaking it down is really helpful for them.
It is. And I was having this discussion when I was talking to Elizabeth. The kids I get, most of our kids don't read music anymore. And even for our year 12 course, they don't have to read music. It's not actually part of the actual requirement, which in a way is fantastic because most of my kids learn through YouTube because we're playing like guitars,
Mhm.
keyboards, anything, and even piano, the keys. They're not reading music anymore. They're playing that game where the little things
Yeah.
come down and I can't remember what it's called. That's how they're learning. So yeah, to actually read music is actually a rare thing. I could count on one hand the number of kids I've had who could actually read music in the last couple of years. It's so
Yeah.
few of them. To the point where my reading music skills are declining because I'm not necessarily doing it anymore. Because I'm not like kids don't necessarily come to me with music and go, I'm stuck on this part. So, every now and again I'll pull out some music and make myself do some sight readings like, yep, I still got it. I still got it. I can still do it. Because my main instrument besides voice is guitar. So I'm reading chord windows, like, or just chords, that's that's not really anything. But you're right, it's using the whole brain and for the kids, and that's what makes it hard for them. But that's also what makes them smarter. But we won't go there because that's, music does those things. What is your favorite lesson or concept to teach and why?
Ooh, that's tricky. Um, I like to do like play-based learning. So I like to get the kids up and moving out of their seats, and try to take the pressure off of them. So I like to do activities that have like some semblance of freedom, some ability for creativity for the kids. Um, like when we're working on rhythms, for example, I will take a bunch of rhythm flashcards and spread them out on the floor all around the room, and we sing a little song as they march around and find a new card, and then everyone goes down to the floor and reads their own rhythm, and they're all 4 beats long, so we all
Yep.
should start and end together, but everyone's card is different, so nobody knows if someone made a mistake.
Yeah.
It's practice. It's not meant to be perfect. It's not meant to be performance. And then they get up and they march around and they do another one. So
Yep.
they're moving, they're singing, and then I can have it with instruments. They could clap the cards, they could play the
Yep.
rhythm, they could, we could use it in so many different ways to keep it interesting for them. And I even do assessments that way. I'll put a few cards over by me and call kids over one at a time while we're doing that. So they're not being on the spot in front of their peers when they do an assessment either. And I can hear how they're doing on reading their rhythm.
Yep.
So activities like that, I think, are fun for me and for the kids. And I think getting them up and moving is so critical because they spend so much of their time in their classroom sitting at their desks, often on a screen on their Chromebooks. And I want to make sure when they come to music that they are moving their bodies and just trying to come up with creative ways to do that. Not everyone wants to do folk dancing and choreographed movement, but just finding time to move in some way, whether it's like what I just described or doing a walk the room activity where they're kind of freely moving around to find things. I think giving that opportunity is important. And
Yep.
also, if there's a way to allow them to be social without it being disruptive, is good too, because when they're, my time of day is shared with the art teacher and the physical education teacher. And in those two classes, there's a lot of time where they get to talk to their peers.
Yep.
And so to come to music and have it be a time where we're all doing everything together at the same time and making music, they want to be talking, and like that's their time of day to be talking. So I want to try to build some of that in so they get some of that socialization in that time too.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, we do, music is such a different way to teach. We don't have to be seated the whole time. And to the point, like I said, I'm teaching high school and I've got one year 7 class that I see. It's the last class I see every week. We have a 2-week timetable, week A, week B, but it's the last class I see every week. And let's just say there's a few interesting little bunnies in there. It's a year 7 class. And yeah, I have to build movement in there, even if it's something as simple as, right, I've got my ukuleles all on the wall, and it's row 1, row 2, row 3. They all know their number because they're numbered. And okay, row 1, go get your ukulele, get your pick, and take a seat, and just get them moving. And then same deal, like, okay, you can sit next to your friend for this part of the lesson and whatever else. So yeah, you got to get them moving. You got to get them something in their hands, otherwise.
I think something that I learned, I took a grad class last summer that was about a moving body and a thinking brain.
Yep.
And that the movement that you do does not have to be specifically related to your curriculum and to your content. If you give kids a 30-minute just exercise, like without any musical connection, and then get into what you're doing, they're going to have more focus because
Yeah.
they've moved, their blood is pumping in their body, and they've moved, and they've probably giggled a little bit while they're doing it, and then they're ready to engage. They need that in their day, and to spend 30 seconds of that, people say, well, I don't want to give up any of my curricular minutes, which I get, but if you spend 30 seconds to a minute letting them do what their body needs to do, you're going to have a much more productive next 42 minutes than you would if you're fighting them for
Exactly.
focus for 45. So I
Exactly.
feel like it's really useful to find a way to move, even with the older kids. It's so easy with the little kids to get them moving.
Yeah.
They're constantly moving, but the older kids might not be so interested in engaging in that, but you've got to find a way to do it to get them engaged in what you're doing when you're done with the movement, or even if it's part of your content.
Yeah, and as you say, it doesn't take much to but when you do some sort of movement, even if it's not connected, they will remember it. But one of my favorite lessons to do, and I haven't long done this with, I'm talking year 10, year 11, grade 11, year 10, and 11 kids. We're doing structure at the moment. So, of course, we're doing 12 bar blues. So it's like, okay, and I'll put Wipeout on and I say, I want 3 movements. And so, it's a surf song. So, and I teach near the beach. So most of these kids do go surfing. So it's surf culture. And it's like, okay, give me 3 movements. And so each chord change, we're doing a different movement for each of the chords, and they remember it. And the kids look at it, it's funny, like if I put a song and say, okay, what chord structure is here, I can see them doing little movements with each of the chord changes. So it's like, yeah, you got it, 12 bar blues. And they'll go, that's fun doing that, miss. Yeah. So it doesn't even matter, like if it's littles or bigs, it doesn't matter. They all remember it. So yeah, it's funny how things are the same. What's your most memorable teaching moments that you're willing to share?
Um, One of the most moving teaching moments that I had was many years ago. It was in the 2007-8 school year. I remember because it was my first year in a building.
Right.
And I was teaching recorder, and we were in 4th grade. It was their second year of playing, and they were learning to play Amazing Grace. And I had several students, struggling with it. It's a difficult song to
Mm-hmm.
play, and but I had several also who had, learned it and mastered it and had moved on. Um, and one of my students had lost his uncle, and at the funeral, he asked his mom if he could bring his recorder, and he played Amazing Grace at his uncle's funeral, which, when his mom came to tell me about it, was very touching to know that I had done something that was so important to him and that he felt confident enough to do that in a public place, in an emotional setting. And that's something that his family is going to remember forever.
Thank you. I'm going to cry for that one too.
Yeah, I'm a little teary myself,
Oh,
but
oh, my dad hasn't long passed away, so that
mine
was one
too.
of
Mine
his,
just passed in
yeah.
January.
So it's that was one of the songs we did at his funeral. So yeah, but that and as you say, it's something so beautiful that that he was willing to do that. Yeah, yeah, that yeah, and
That
not
he
only
was
the
brave
yeah
and comfortable, and
yeah
that
yeah
that it, and then he played it well, like
yeah
I'm sure a bunch of people who were there were like, why is this child bringing a recorder to a
yeah
funeral? You
yes
can
yes
imagine
yes
how that would feel
yeah
unsettling to people who are there, but then to hear
yeah
that he did it, like, with the correct amount of emotional control,
yeah
and wasn't there to be a silly or to do it for himself.
yeah.
He was doing it for his uncle.
Oh, that is just it's beautiful. As I said, it's those little things that stick with us, doesn't it? So,
Mm-hmm.
okay, thanks for making me cry. We're going to change tack just very quickly, shortly. So
Yes.
then we need something different. So I'm going to ask quick 5 questions, and then we're going to talk about
Okay.
the upcoming virtual summit that we've got coming. Yeah. So yeah, I think we need a change.
All
Thanks,
right,
Chrissy.
we're good.
But look, I think anyone watching this would understand that, like, we all have an impact on our kids, and we sort of don't realize how much of an impact we have. And I have a lot of kids that come back and see me, or I see them out and about, and they're now grown children. Like, oh, it's just that some of the kids I've been teaching, because for 20 something years, when you're seeing high school kids, I mean, these kids, they're nearly in their 40s, and so you know. But they come back and they sort of say, "Oh yeah, I remember I remember that lesson," and blah blah blah. So it's lovely. Anyway, let's do something quick. Okay, what's your favorite
Great.
restaurant? Favorite restaurant to go to?
Lately, I've been enjoying a little place called Shanghai Bistro. I just found it. I have a friend from China who recommended it to me. She says it's the only place that she eats Chinese takeout,
Yeah.
and I went and I loved it, and it's great.
Yep. And what's your favorite go to? Like when you order, what are you ordering?
I usually get the sesame beef and of course an egg roll.
Oh, okay. Yeah, egg rolls aren't a big thing here in Australia. We certainly have Chinese takeout, don't get me wrong, but no, egg rolls aren't necessarily a thing we tend to get here. I don't know why. Anyway, what are you currently binge watching? I mean, it's summer holidays over there. Are you actually binge watching anything?
I have I started to binge watch an old show called Malcolm in the Middle, and
Yes.
I'm only in the middle of season 2, and I've already watched it when it was live years ago. And then I just got the notification that it's expiring in a few days, and there's no way I'm going to get through the whole thing, and I'm very salty about it. But I also like to watch like true crime documentaries and things.
Yep.
So that also is something that I've been watching lately.
Yep. Yeah, I get you. Yeah, I love Malcolm in the Middle. It's just I loved it. Yeah, it still comes on here on our free to air TV. So every now and again they'll just play the season. So yeah, I like that
And
one
I
too.
also specifically love that my favorite band wrote the opening song for them and is also like does the soundtrack. So that's They Might Be Giants, and they did
Oh
You're Not the
yes,
Boss of Me.
yes,
And
yes.
I love that band. It's been my favorite band since I was in high school, and so it was a neat connection when they did the theme music for that.
Yeah, I forgot that they were the band. I can hear the song's playing in my head now, so it'll probably be an earworm for the rest of the day. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Are you currently reading anything?
I just finished a book that I was rereading called Design for Dying, which I read cover to cover on Father's Day after having just lost my father, because it was a book that I read that really shaped a lot of my ideas on life and death and eternity and all of that. So I reread it on Father's Day. I took a break from social media. I had to distract myself
Yeah,
and just reread that. And so that was the most recent thing that I just read cover to cover. My
yeah,
problem with reading is once I start a book that I'm into, I don't stop. So I tend to finish it in a day, and I need to have enough time to do that
yeah.
when I want to pick up a book.
Yeah, I get you. I listen to a lot of books because I have a lot of time in the car. So I'm listening to books, but I had a whole week last week. I went, I'm not listening to anything, and I just had a very quiet drive to school and back. It's about I'm just trying to do the conversion. It's about 65 miles to work for me, there and back.
Oh,
So which is 102 kilometers. So 100 Ks there, 100 Ks back, which is it's all freeway driving, so it's not hard. So that's why I have a lot of time in the car. Anyway, summer
yes.
holidays. So what's your perfect summer holiday day?
Well, I like to sleep in. I am a night owl and a late sleeper. I like to play. I have 3 cats who are surprisingly giving us privacy right now.
Yes, they've been
I'm
good.
very impressed with them. But I like to play with them. Their names are Dash and Zags and Sassy. Sassy is 9 years old, and Dash and Zags are right around 3 years old. Um, and they're just so much fun to play with. Um, so sleeping in, playing with the cats. I like to go for a walk if it's not too hot out, but there's a park near me that there's a trail that's mostly wooded, so it's a little bit cooler there when
Yep.
I can get in there. Going to the pool with friends. I just spent the day at the pool yesterday, and then coming home and having a cocktail with my husband and dinner on the porch. We've been eating, we have a screened in porch, and it's lovely to eat out there in
Yep.
the evening. We have a great view of the sunset while we're having dinner.
Nice. It sounds like a very nice day. Very jealous.
Yes. I would like
Um,
to do it every day, all the time, year round, but it doesn't work that way.
no, for some reason we have to work because we like to pay for
Yes.
things. So yeah. Last question before we talk about the summit. What's your favorite snack?
Um, I like Swedish fish.
I
I
have
don't know
no
if you're
idea what they
familiar.
are. What are they?
They're little like gummy fish.
Oh, okay. They
They're
don't
just fish
taste like
shaped.
fish.
No, not at all. I do not eat anything seafood. They're Swedish. So you can find them at IKEA if you have an IKEA. I
Yep.
don't know if IKEA is in Australia.
Yeah, it is.
Um,
Yeah.
but they are, I think that it just tastes like red, but I've learned that I think that the flavor is the lingonberry or the lingon. I don't know how you say it correctly, but
Okay.
it's a fruit, I guess, that's common in Sweden. But
Okay.
it's very tasty.
I'll believe you. Never heard of Swedish fish. I'm going to look them up now after the when I get off and
Do you know
have a
about
look.
Sour Patch Kids?
Yes, yes, yeah.
They're the same company. It's just a sweet instead of a sour.
Oh, okay, yeah. And my kids, they all love my like they're grown up adults. my children, and my youngest is 30, but they grew up with sour lollies, and I could never understand why they like sour lollies. I still don't get it. I'm sorry. I want a lolly, like a lolly or a candy or whatever you want to call it, to be sweet and yummy. Yeah, not sour. I don't want it to make my face screw up. But anyway, look, so I said we'll switch it over now. What are you talking about for the upcoming virtual conference that we're doing with the music crew?
My topic is about classroom management in elementary music. That's something that is a big struggle, I think, for a lot of us as music teachers.
Yep.
It's hard when you are one teacher that you see, like, you don't see that have the same kids every day, all day
Yep.
long. So trying for kids to understand and follow your structure when they're in a different teacher's classroom the majority of the day can cause difficulties. And I've gone through a lot of different strategies on classroom management that have had different levels of success and have evolved into something that works really well. And I also have some like good ideas of big picture things that you can do in your school outside of your own classroom to help influence how classroom management works in your classroom. So I don't want to give away the details on that, but I've
Oh,
got some I think different ideas that I've actually used the last few years in my building that have been really helpful for us and for my whole team.
wow, that sounds very exciting. Sorry if you can hear a train going past, but
Nope.
yep, no, good. Thank you. Uh, I live on the main line to Brisbane, so Sydney to Brisbane. So it goes past us every, I don't know. I don't hear it normally, except for I always hear it when I'm recording. Or I would say to my husband, I'm recording, so please don't make any noise. And for whatever reason, he always thought that was the best time to start the mower. It's like, seriously, do you have
Yes,
to do
I
this
had
right
that
now?
same talk with my husband before we started. We have church bells that are close to our house that
Yep.
often um, ring out, and they kind of drive me nuts 'cause it's like every 15 minutes that they chime.
Oh,
But a lot of people find them like very nice, and I'm like, they don't need to tell us every 15 minutes all day.
dear. So I think you sort of covered. My next question was going to be what motivated you to choose the topic, but I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, like the motivation was because it is one of those things that we see a lot of in a lot of the Facebook groups that people really do struggle with classroom management with the kids. So
Yeah, I
I'm
think we're all very well prepared typically on content.
yeah,
You know, you when you go and get your degree in music education, content is like a huge
yeah,
thing, and you learn maybe like some general education classes about learning styles and special education and things like that. But the only real classroom management experience that many young teachers have is in student teaching, and then they're using somebody else's methods and trying to do that, but there's another teacher in the room and the kids
yeah,
default, to the other teacher. So I think when a lot of young teachers in particular get out into their own classroom, it's hard to know where to start. um, so I'd like to help them skip over some of the mistakes that I made
yeah,
and find something that seems to work really well. I'm in a Title I school, which in America is a school that serves a lower socioeconomic class. Um, and sometimes there's a lot of discussion that students in these schools have more behavior concerns than students in more affluent districts. And what I do has worked really well for my kids. So I
yeah,
hope that I can share that with people who might be struggling and be able to refocus their attention on coming up with fun lessons and things. If the
yeah.
behavior is under control, you can do so much more with the kids.
Oh, exactly. And as you say, you've hit so many things. I mean, student teachers, I know, like all of us, we've all made mistakes in the beginning. And yeah, so if you can avoid those, and it's sometimes hard as a young teacher coming out, as you say, we're focused on the content. They don't focus necessarily on the actual teaching side of things. And that's, you can't get to your content unless you've got kids who are actually listening to you and doing what they're supposed to do so that you can actually teach the content and hopefully get them to enjoy the lesson. So yeah, I'm looking forward to listening to that because anything, I figure if I get even one little thing out of something and it's going to make my life easier, I'm all for it. Thank you very much. So I think you've already sort of covered the next question, which was how do you think this session will benefit music educators? But is there anything else you think, will they'll get any sort of benefits out of it? What other things?
I think trying to think outside the box and not trying to shoulder it all yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, what happens in your classroom is your responsibility, and it is something that you need to set yourself and your students up for success. But there are so many times when the systems within a school are not in line with how we do things in the music room, and we need to be able to think outside the box and bring maybe some systemic change or become involved in what's happening around the whole school, so that you can be a voice that isn't just like the music teacher over in the corner, that it's,
Yeah.
you know, someone who's a big part of the school community, not only with the students, because you have, you know, 500 kids that are coming to you all the time, but to also, you know, have that community feeling with the rest of the teachers in your building, so that they want to consider what it is that you're contributing to the overall school culture.
Yeah, I love that in so many ways. You've said so many things that are so good there. So, we were saying that we weren't going to have any visits by the cat, and I was slightly giggling because one of them's just decided to drop in.
Yes,
So, which
this
one?
is
Which one have we got?
Zags. Come here. This is little Zags, and
Oh,
she's called Zags because her tail is broken there.
oh,
And so it's a little zigzag. And so it was broken when at birth.
oh,
But she's the sweetest.
yeah,
She
yeah,
has a little desk right here, a little bed right on my desk, so that she can um, sit with me while I work. And she usually does.
yeah, yeah. It's funny. They've all got their little spots. I've got a little, I'm quite short, and so my printer, I have to, if I need to put new paper and stuff in, I need to stand on something. So I've got like a little footstool here, but the cat decides that that's his seat. So if he comes in and there's something on there, he lets me know big time. Like he just like is very cranky that I've got something on there for he like move. Anyway, so we're nearly there, darling. So how do we find you on social media, and where will people find you online?
Well, I do have a Facebook page and an Instagram page. I have not been real great about posting those. I've been consumed a lot this past year with my father's illness and dealing with family things, but I'm trying to get back into the swing of things this summer so I can come back next year and be a little bit more active out there. But I do have a store on TPT and also a store on Etsy. Unfortunately for you, I do not do international shipping. But our friends in the United States have got an Etsy store with lots of fun things, and it's some things are like printouts of my products that are on TPT. So it's like nicely professionally printed,
Yep,
ready to go, which can be a real convenience for a lot of people. But then other things that like can't be, aren't downloadable
yep,
items. So
yep.
I've got lots of different things, and I've got a whole bunch of things that were in the works that kind of got sidelined. So I'm working on putting together a bunch of new products, hopefully over the summer, but definitely if I don't get it done this summer, should be done before 2025.
So your store name is and Etsy store name is?
Hutzel House of Music, both at TPT and at Etsy and on Facebook and Instagram.
That
Always Hutzel House of Music.
great. I love it when it's simple and we can find it's the same thing everywhere, so we can find you. I love it, love it.
Yes.
And look, you were just talking about some of your resources. But what do you what's one of your best sellers there on Teachers Pay Teachers? What do people like to go to your store for?
I've got probably two that are the most popular. One is a parodies writing like project that's meant for upper elementary or middle school, junior high, maybe like 10
Yep,
to 13-year-old children, that really breaks down so sequentially, step by step, exactly the procedure to come up with new words to a known tune.
mm-hmm.
That my kids, I love to do it with my sixth graders at the end of the year when they've had it, they're done, they're ready to move on to the junior high,
Yep,
and they don't want to listen to me, so I can like get them going on it, and then they can work, and they're all giggling with each other over their ridiculous little songs that they've written.
yeah,
So that's a big one. And then another thing that I have that's been real popular is some coloring sheets that do a cross-curricular connection between
yep,
music and math, where the students look at music notes in like a segment of a coloring page and have to do a equation to figure out how many beats are in each section to determine what color. And I think one of the things that I try to do with many of my products is try to create the same thing with a variety of different levels,
yep,
so that you can use that with multiple grade levels or differentiate it within your own classroom in one grade level, to allow it to be used in multiple ways. So like
yep.
on those coloring sheets, I've got one that includes a chart that shows you how many beats each note gets, and then one that has that not filled out, and then one where kids can choose what colors they use, and one where they use a prescribed color set. So it's giving the different amount of support and a different amount of creativity and choice to the kids that you can work with to what's comfortable for you.
Yeah, and we all need differentiation in our classrooms, so, as you say, either at grade level or within a classroom. I know I've got a couple of classes that, yeah, huge variety of abilities.
Finding a way to do it in a way that kids don't feel singled out and aren't noticeably being differentiated for.
Exactly.
So I think, like, if you can make a worksheet look almost exactly the same for everybody, but maybe like one copy has a word bank on it that the others don't have, and that it's, like, kids don't even notice, or you say, I'm randomly handing these out, but you're not really randomly handing things out, and everyone gets a different version just so that no one's copying, but realistically you've given them, with knowing what your students need.
Yeah, again, that's another whole conversation we could be having, isn't it?
Yes, and it's actually a topic I presented on at our summer conference, not last year, I think the year before. So
yeah, and all those recordings are still available in the Music Crew Collaborative Facebook group.
Yes, in the guide section.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, Chrissy, thank you so much for being part of this interview, and we can't wait for people to come and join us at the virtual conference, which is happening. Please correct me. The dates are
July 18th through 20th.
Yeah, and it's all held in the Facebook group. It's all free. You get professional credits, development credits. What did you call them again?
Yeah, we have a form that you can fill out to get credits for license renewal or for your professional development. Hopefully it works for most people. I know some places are more stringent about it. It's kind of on the honor system with us, but it shows exactly what sessions that you've watched and what you can earn.
Yeah, and the wonderful thing about this, it's for music teachers by music teachers, and that's
absolutely.
We're all people who are in the classroom or have been in the classroom for a very long time and had the experience that, and we've all been there. So this is the wonderful thing I really like about this conference, that it's by real music teachers who've been there, done it, or still doing it.
Yeah, and we've all sat through so much PD, professional development, that does not directly pertain to what it is that we do in our classroom. So to have something that's really just focused entirely on music teachers, it feels good.
It does feel good, and that's one of the reasons I absolutely love it. And even though, as I said, I teach older kids, I get so much out of every session, because it's like, as I said, if I get one thing out of it that I can use, it's like, that's a win for me. So thank you. All right,
I agree. Chrissy. And I feel like I get to know the presenters better. Like, just watching their sessions, you get to know their personalities and feel like you know who has, like, oh, I like the way she presented, I bet I'll like her resources. So I have found a lot of things that I wouldn't have known about just by watching our friends present as well.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you again, Chrissy, so much for being part of the interview. And we can't wait to see everybody in the actual virtual conference.